This is Singapore. I'm Paul Comfort. Over my shoulder is the iconic Marina Basin that Singapore is known for. But today we're going to take you further inside this city. We'll look at its amazing public transportation system with all its innovations and with its inclusion. Plus, we'll take a look at the food and the culture. It's going to be a great ride. Thanks for being with us today on Transit Unplugged TV from Singapore. The Republic of Singapore is a sovereign island country and city-state in maritime Southeast Asia. It lies just about on the equator, so it's warm all the time. The country's territory is composed of one main island and 63 satellite islands. It has the third highest population density in the world. The Singapore Land Transport Authority, or LTA, is a statutory board under the Ministry of Transport of the Government of Singapore. The LTA plans, designs, builds, and maintains Singapore's land transport infrastructure and systems. So LTA is responsible for the development of the rapid transit system and the expansion of the rail network, and is the central bus network planner. We're here at the Napier Station on the Brown Line. Let's go in. We're in the Napier Station of the Brown Line, which is the newest station and the newest line of LTA's mass rapid transit system. It's a phenomenal station. First off, I wanted to point out that there's a numerous inclusivity features which we'll point out to you at the station. I also really was taken by the rolling roof here and was told that this station was actually a real point of pride with LTA. Their own in-house architects designed it. And not only is this visually appealing, but there's also a lot of weight on top of here because it's in an area of the city where there's a lot of embassies and high commissions. And so it also had to be architecturally sound to hold this up, and it obviously is. This line, this Brown Line, connects in with all the other 5 lines in the city and really provides a great integration of the public transit network here in the LTA. Jeremy Yap is the Deputy CEO of the LTA and helps oversee all of its operations. He met me in the rail station to discuss some of the features of their system. So tell us some about the features that you have in these stations, barrier-free, etc.
If you can see, Paul, the tactile guidance system, these mark out sort of a barrier-free route for the visually impaired as they approach the station. We also have priority use signs. These are signs that are marked in blue. They indicate where other commuters should give priority to our more vulnerable commuters. So sometimes our commuters don't know how to respond. So these are the visual cues to enable other commuters to give priority. This is a board where we have what we call those with not visible conditions. We have a card that we can issue, they can collect with a lanyard, a beautiful design lanyard which says transport for all, which is an inclusive statement. And they can even have a sticker if it's a short term, so that on our train, on our services, they can be identified as having priority. Here we invite commuters, everyday commuters, to give assistance, to give care to fellow commuters who are vulnerable. And we train them, and they volunteer to be trained online. We put them through modules so that they learn how to engage. I'm glad to actually say that we have almost 1,000 certified commuters today who have signed up and have been trained.
That's wonderful. So all this technology that you have in a cutting-edge system, it's really around the heart.
That's right. It's really around the heart and going to be the focal point. And the lowest focal point is really the vulnerable commuter. You know, he's the commuter that we need to facilitate, right, to be included in our system. And that's why the hardware combined with the heart-ware will achieve that.
There's Braille on the platform in numerous places, but for those who don't read Braille, there's also raised letters, which you can read with your fingers to determine where it is you're going. Here's something you don't see at every train station in the world. Look at this beautiful green wall. The LTA, in conjunction with the National Parks Board, has put in hundreds, if not thousands of small plants here, which are live and provide a great environmental aesthetic to the station. I love the connections here in the system between the rail network and the bus network. These are great bus stops, John. I also noticed these informational signs. Tell me about these.
So here you can see the bus routes, when is it arriving, and the destination of the bus.
That's really important. In a lot of places around the world, you know, you might know when the bus is coming, but you don't really know where it's going. And so if you're a new user to the system, this information is extremely helpful. I also noticed these green lines. What do they mean?
These are color coding. Right down here below, you know exactly if the bus arriving has or available seats or not.
And John, is this information about arriving times and destinations, is that available on a smartphone app for passengers?
Yes, Paul. This is all information that is readily available in real time at the LTA mobile transportation app.
Jeremy invited us to his conference room to continue the conversation. But first, we take the bus to try some traditional food for lunch.
So we are here in the East Coast Park, part of Singapore. It's quite an interesting park because first you get to see all these ships here parked. And,
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's like over 100 ships out there in the harbor.
Absolutely. So maybe you're familiar with Singapore is one of the busiest harbor in the world. I think it's the second busiest harbor in the world. And we are here to eat the chili crab. You know, so what you do is you take one of these sweet buns, you open, and you just dip in it.
Very good. And these are two different types of crabs. So this one is pepper crab.
So that's a black pepper crab. Right?
Okay.
And this is the chili one. So it's gonna get messy. So what do you put? Put your apron on and just dig in.
Sounds good. Getting back to Jeremy's conference room, we sat down to talk about some more features of the Singapore LTA system. Jeremy, tell us about the role of taxi cabs here in Singapore and how they integrate into public transport.
Taxi cabs have been here around in Singapore for a long time. So when ride-hail services came on stream, Uber was here, and now Grab is the dominant player. It was pretty disruptive at first, and so we, wrapped our heads around it and say, how do we make it work? And this was through devising what we call a point-to-point framework structure, in which we divide up the services no longer by vehicle types. In other words, if you are a taxi, we don't define you by a vehicle type, we define you by the services that you operate. The reason why I say that is that if you are a cab driver, you can also perform ride-hail services, and that bridges the inequality. So we try to allow both sides to have a say in the other's turf, and in doing so, we managed to bridge the differences. And today, I think I'm glad to say that it's been operating quite harmoniously.
Jeremy, sustainability has become a hot topic across the world when it comes to public transport. What are you all doing here at the LTA in that regard?
Paul, you're absolutely right. I think sustainable transport system is something that must be at the core of all transport systems today. Riding on a train, for example, reduces carbon emissions by 90% compared to taking a ride, let's say in an internal combustion engine car, right? So by promoting public transport, by promoting walk, cycle, active travel modes together with riding on public transport, we hope to corner almost the market share, right? And that entire market share is a relatively almost green market share, because those on active modes actually emit close to zero carbon emissions. Also look at when we build stations, look at the skylight, the use of skylight, use of glass panels, louvers to keep out the rain, making use of natural ventilation, right, to be able to be green in every respect. And our bus fleet, by 2030, half of our existing 6,000 fleet will be electric, fully electric.
If you want to watch the full interview, hit the subscribe button right here on YouTube to have access to additional bonus content from this visit to Singapore. Part of my visit to the LTA offices included exploring their transportation museum, where I was able to try the bus driver training simulator for trainees. The LTA outsources the operation of all of its buses to several contractors. I got to visit the operations center for one of them, Go Ahead Bus, and talk to their local general manager, Mr. Andy Thompson, about bus operations there in Singapore. So Andy, tell me about what you're doing in the area of digitalization.
Okay, we've actually done a huge amount, and that's something I'm very proud of. So, as well as the core vehicle tracking system that the LTA provide, we've taken the initiative to fit a driver telematics system onto all of our buses here. So that helps the bus captains, because it almost gamifies how smoothly they're driving. So they've got an app which they can check, obviously not when they're driving.
Right, yeah.
At the end of their shift or during their break, they can have a look at the app, and it gives them a score for how well they've driven.
Really?
And
what's it looking at? Like what type of fact? Braking, speed, all that?
All of that, braking, how going around corners too quickly, accelerating too quickly. They've also got a little set of lights on the dashboard, so they're looking for green, should be green. If they slam the brakes on, it might go red. So that gives them a kind of real-time indication about how smoothly they're driving, but they can also, as I say, check at the end of their shift, and so almost coach themselves.
Yeah.
But
do they compare among themselves how they're doing?
Well, we do,
yeah.
but in a positive way. So we have a competition every year. So the top 40 drivers get prizes and rewards.
Wow.
The top driver gets a particularly good reward. So there is competition to drive smoothly, which is great. As the managing director of a company, safety is obviously the number one priority. And knowing that the drivers have got this system that we can see and they can see, and we use it in that positive way, has really worked for us.
Later that evening, we went out to a local street food market that was teeming with people and every kind of local delicacy you can imagine.
So let me introduce to you, this is the samba stingray here. We got the calamari here. You see the satay here, and prawns.
And what's that drink there?
This is bandung, so it's a rose syrup with a little bit of milk. This is very classic here in Singapore.
All right, we got some stingray here. First time ever. Oh, that is great. It's a little spicy on top, and the meat is white and delicious. A little muscly. The Malayan symbolizes this island nation of Singapore, as does its public transit. Today, we've taken you inside the public transit system, where you could see how it all ties together and the amazing innovations, the inclusiveness that this transit system has. We've also shared with you a little bit of the food, the culture. This amazing city-state has been yours today on Transit Unplugged TV. If you like what you've seen today, give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe. And you can be a transit evangelist by sharing this program that comes every month with your friends on social media.